Hello guys, welcome to Like Tech. Today we're going to do a review on the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G. Samsung A series is one of the company's most popular. It's more affordable than the top-end Galaxy X, but delivers many of the same experiences, meaning that in terms of volume, Samsung sells a lot more Galaxy A than it does the flagship. In recent years, mid-range phones have seen a huge boost. They have dropped the sense of being slightly compromised, while premium features have trickled down, meaning you now get more for your money at this level. That brings us to the Samsung Galaxy A52 5G, which turned out to be something of a star. There are two versions of the Galaxy A52, but they are not equals. The small addition of the 5G on the end denotes that this is a superior device with a wider range of connectivity potential, although from a design point of view, you will not be able to tell the difference. Both are the same size, design, dimensions, and both models come in blue, white, violet, and black. Sorry, that should be awesome blue, awesome white, awesome violet, and awesome black, because Samsung has found fun with the A series and appended the word awesome to just about everything. Those colors are matte rather than gloss, meaning that they are nice and tactile, stay free from fingerprints, and don't look like a typical cheap plastic phone. It's plastic, of course, and it does not feel as premium as the Galaxy S21, which, to be clear, is also plastic, but there's enough individuality to make the Galaxy A52 5G stand out. We especially like the camera array. It's not a huge blink lump like in the Galaxy S series. It's integrated better, more subtly, even if it's overstuffed with sensors. If there's one thing that cheapens the design, is that it's a little hollow feeling. Tap on the back and it doesn't feel solid. But the thing that's likely to turn it is that the Galaxy A52 carries IP67 certification, meaning it's totally dust-proof and can survive a full dunking in water to 1 minute for 30 minutes. According to the specification, that's usually the preserve of much more expensive phone, making the Galaxy A52 a lot more interesting and giving it an edge over similarly priced rivals. Samsung goes further, offering a 3.5mm headphone socket, a convenience feature but also popular with those still using weird headphones, while there's dual stereo speakers too, offering Dolby Atmos effect to make the soundstage sound wider. It's a great combination of features that arguably give the A52 some advantage over Samsung flagship phones, especially when you consider it about the price. A 6.5-inch AMOLED panel sits on the front of the Galaxy A52 5G, and this is the only phone in the range so far that offers 120Hz, a fast refresh rate to keep that content looking smooth. The regular A52 and A72 had to make do with 90Hz. What you don't get is the adaptive refresh rate, but that's a minor point. We would say it's better to have fast refresh than not, although it was also worth saying that there's only a small difference in experience between 90Hz and 120Hz, so this is spec sheet loading as much as anything else. The flat display sticks to a full HD plus resolution, that's 2400 by 1080p, resulting in 404 pixels per inch, which is nice and sharp. It's basically coming close to Samsung Galaxy S20 FE with the same size and resolution display, but with bezels a little larger than the Galaxy S21 models. The A52 is also not as bright, came in a peak brightness of 800 nits, so it doesn't quite have the outdoor punch as those flagship models, but it still performs well. Being an AMOLED panel, it has that rich delivery of color and deep blacks, meaning it's a great canvas across which your content is drawn. There's no HDR, so you fire up Netflix and you won't see the HDR tag, but that perhaps doesn't matter. We watch some of Netflix Bridgerton side by side with the Galaxy S21 Plus running the same, and there's very little difference, so you are not really missing out. Yes, it's not as potent as those displays on the flagship Galaxy S models, but this phone is half the price, so it's hard to complain. Certainly, we will not find anything that concerns us using this display, and there's one advantage: the polarizing layer doesn't get in the way when using polarized sunglasses, so it's preferable to the 2021 Galaxy S models in that regard. Finally, there's a fingerprint sensor under the display. this doesn't seem to be quite as fast as the scanner on the Galaxy S21 model, but it works well enough. The hardware story makes for interesting reading. The Galaxy A52 5G sits on Qualcomm hardware, the recent Snapdragon 750G rather than the Exynos 980 of the A51 from 2020. There isn't a huge difference in the power offered between these two platforms, although it's a healthy step above the non-5G version of the A51. What's more interesting is that Samsung appears to be increasingly choosing Qualcomm in some devices where it was using Exynos in the past, perhaps to increase marketability of devices in some regions. Snapdragon 750G is close to the Snapdragon 765G that was so popular in 2020, but once again, this is the mid-range, proving that it's not that far removed from the flagship level. That plays out in daily use too. Moving to the Galaxy A52 5G from the Galaxy S21 Plus has been a useful comparison because there's actually very little difference overall in normal daily tasks. Apps are a little slower to launch, but hitting a heavy session of Call of Duty Mobile is as rewarding on the A52 as it's on the S21, and being able to deliver these demanding experiences without feeling of compromise is what people want. There's a compromise, however. The hardware has to work a lot harder to deliver things like AA games, and that is a much heavier toll on the battery life. The Galaxy A52 5G won't last as long playing those games as the flagship models will, and that's just a fact of the lower spec hardware. That's only going to be a problem for those who want a game to game a lot, because outside of gaming, the battery performance is actually very good, as is often the case. Pairing a big battery is 4500 mAh. With slightly less demanding hardware means that in day-to-day use, the power consumption is lower, meaning you don't have to charge as often as you might on a flagship phone. There's no wireless charging here, which is a minor loss, but there's support for 24 watts wire charging. Although that's not the fastest around, it's fast enough. Storage is generous. It's 228 gig standard or 256 gig for the pricier model, with the advantage that the Galaxy A still has a micro SD card slot, meaning that Galaxy has given something that Galaxy S has given up on. That's a huge win for those wanting to carry around more content, as you could buy a 1TB card on the cheap to hold loads of pictures and such like. Overall, it's a solid offering when it comes to performance, and the hardware you get feels like an elevation over the A51 predecessor. Where the Galaxy A52 5G really differentiates itself from the Galaxy S is in the cameras. There's a marked step down in this department, and the functions over. The 4CD quad arrangement, there's only really two useful sensors here, the main camera and the ultra wide. The depth sensor only lets you use portrait mode on the main camera, and as we know from other phones, is largely unnecessary. Whether Samsung is using a cheaper sensor or whether it's just to make up the number of cameras, we don't know. And there's a macro camera. This is now a mainstay on cheaper phones, doesn't really do much, and is pretty tricky to get a decent photo from, so it's of limited value. There's no optical zoom, which is one of the advantages that Galaxy A72 offers, as that model has a 3x optical lens on the back. On the A52, it's all digital zoom on the main camera, even though the user interface within the camera app lays out the selections are there, though there's a zoom lens, just like the Galaxy S. The quality drops off pretty quickly as you use the digital zoom, so it's best avoided. The Galaxy A52 5G has 64 megapixel main sensor, which outputs 16 megapixel photos as standard, combining pixels with the aim of boosting the quality. This is now common on mid-range phones, often choosing higher resolution over sensor size. It's the only lens offering autofocus, while optical stabilization is a benefit too. Generally speaking, it's a good camera, getting the advantages of Samsung AI Scene Optimizer, which will help you make the most of what's in front of you. Photos are pretty good, but things can be a little on the flat side. There isn't the HDR pop that you get at flagship level, which results a little muted as a result. There's a capable night mode that will take multiple images and combine to get a decent low light photo. not quite to flagship standard but good enough to be worth using. You can opt to shoot in at 64 megapixels, but there are few advantages. Yes, you can crop closer to get to DJ. You might not be able to make out the 16 megapixel image, but it's all pretty mushy once you start doing that. We also found that the 60 megapixel images were better with improved color balance and contrast, which sort of makes the 64 megapixel options redundant. The portrait mode is good, with Samsung having dropped the live focus naming used over the past few generations of devices, and the selection of filters and effects that can be applied to those bokeh shots. There's a 32 megapixel camera on the front of the Galaxy A52 5G. Again, it's an high resolution that doesn't really pay off, but it does offer two different angles with a slightly wider shot available. This is achieved by sensor cropping for regular viewpoint, then using more of the sensor for the second viewpoint, giving the illusion that you have got a slightly wider lens. Other modes can be applied to the front camera too, so you can take portrait photos and alter the background effect, which all works pretty well. You can also use night mode on the front camera, but here you start to get closer to the limits of this device performance, with results slightly under par. The Samsung Galaxy A52 5G launches with the latest software from Samsung, that's Google Android 11 operating system, with Samsung One UI 3.1 layered over the top. It's a familiar setup mirroring that which we have seen on the Galaxy S21 already this year. There is the promise of 4 years of security updates, which will take this device through to 2025, although you are only likely to get 300 version updates. It's here that Samsung has a real advantage over rivals. There are many mid-range devices sitting around the same price or cheaper, but Samsung has the most refined software in our view, offering the most complete skin over the top of Android. The likes of Xiaomi, Redmi, Realme and so forth can quite cut it by compare. There's some duplication of apps, though, with Samsung offering its own browser, contact, messaging apps and more, but it's enough to replace this with Google's app instead. I would think that gives a better experience overall. You also get the option not to install a lot of Samsung apps at startup, so the issue of Bluetooth is no longer really a problem. We found the software to be sleek and smooth on the A52. There's a lot of options and customization, while we've also seen Samsung moving closer to stock Android, offering things like Google Discover and access to your Google Assistant linked devices, which is all new in 2021. The Samsung Galaxy A52 5G feels like a much more competitive device than the A series did in 2020. With a rise in mid-range performance over the last 12 months, Samsung has delivered a really strong device here. The fundamentals of this phone are just right. There's power for a smooth experience even in demanding tasks. There's good battery life and a great display. Here boosted with that faster refresh rate, keeping features like 3.5mm headphone socket and micro SD add real value too. The IP67 dust/waterproofing does make this phone stand out a little too, sitting on top of that of a design that we like a lot. It's a recipe that adds up to a great phone. Avoiding the software nasties can sometimes crop up at this more affordable price point. It's that price point that will also be a major law. The Galaxy A52 5G not only opens the 5G door, it does so at a price that's less than half of the Galaxy S flagships without any major compromises. Alright guys, we've come to the end of our review video. Please like, comment, subscribe and turn on those post notifications to get notified when we release a new video. Please guys, stay blessed.